The sun beat down on the parched earth, baking the small town of Redemption, Texas, in a relentless heat wave. Not a single cloud marred the vast expanse of the sky, mirroring the emptiness in the heart of a young woman who stood at the edge of town, her head hung low, shoulders slumped. She was all alone. Her name was Lily. At 19, she had already seen more pain and loss than most people do in a lifetime. And now here she was, lost and afraid, clutching a small blanket to her body, as if it were a shield. Men had always been her tormentors, and she now hated them all, despising their strength and their eyes that saw women as nothing more than property. She wasn't even sure why she was in Redemption. All she knew was that she had to get away from the ranch where the devil himself seemed to reside in the form of a man named Clayton. As she walked, her eyes, the color of a stormy sea, scanned the horizon, searching for an escape, for a haven. She stumbled onto the property of a large ranch. In the distance, a weathered wooden sign proclaimed, Hope's End Ranch. It belonged to a gruff old rancher named Caleb Holt. He was a widower, his wife having passed away years ago, leaving him to raise their 6-year-old daughter, Rosie, on his own. He was a man of few words, his face etched with the hardships of a life well lived, his eyes holding a sadness that mirrored the vast emptiness of the prairie. He'd seen enough pain and loss to last several lifetimes. And so when he saw Lily at the edge of his property, he knew she, too, carried a heavy burden. You shouldn't be out here, child. It ain't safe, he said, his voice as rough as the calluses on his hands. But there was a gentleness in his eyes that belied his gruff words. I'm sorry, Lily stammered, her voice catching in her throat. I didn't mean to trespass. I just need somewhere to hide, please. And as she spoke, she could feel the terror in her voice, the desperation in her plea. Caleb looked at her, really looked at her, and he saw the fear in her eyes, the vulnerability in her posture. He saw the way she clutched the blanket around her like a lifeline. And in that moment, he saw not just a trespasser, but a lost soul in desperate need of help. Without another word, Caleb turned and walked towards his house. Lily hesitated for a moment, torn between her fear of men and her desperate need for help. But something in Caleb's demeanor, something in his quiet strength, drew her in. She decided to trust him, hoping against hope that she hadn't made a terrible mistake. When they reached the house, Caleb went inside without another word. Lily stood frozen on the porch, her eyes wide with a mixture of fear and gratitude. She heard the murmur of a woman's voice inside the house, and her heart skipped a beat. Would this woman be as kind as her father? Caleb came back out, holding a blanket in his hands. It was a thick, warm wool, the kind that would keep the coldest winter chill at bay. He walked over to Lily and gently placed the blanket around her shoulders. She flinched slightly at his touch, but he didn't press her. Instead, he turned and walked back inside, leaving Lily wrapped in the blanket, both literally and metaphorically. Moments later, he returned with a bowl of stew, its savory aroma filling the air. Eat, he said gruffly, but there was a hint of tenderness in his voice. As Lily ate, she felt a strange sense of calm wash over her. It wasn't just the warmth of the stew or the blanket, but the feeling of being safe, of being seen, of being valued. It was a feeling she had long forgotten. Then she heard the sound of small feet running, and a little girl came bounding out of the house. "Daddy, who's the new friend?" she asked, her eyes wide with curiosity. "This here is Lily," Caleb said, his voice softening. "And Lily? This is my daughter, Rosie." And so began an unlikely friendship, born out of tragedy and nurtured by kindness. It was a bond that proved that sometimes the greatest strength comes from the most unexpected sources, and that the hardest hearts can be softened by the innocence of a child's love.